Okay, Stalker. Today I have my review of LoopCloud 5, which I think is one of the best pieces of free software out there, period. There's a link down below for you to download this LoopCloud 5 for free, and I would wholeheartedly, unequivocally recommend you do it. Now, I've already made a video kind of showing off some of the features of LoopCloud 5, and that's going to be in the playlist after this video, so just stay tuned and watch that or skip to that. But this is really more just me talking about what I think about LoopCloud 5 and why I think it's one of the must-have pieces of software in 2020. So, what is LoopCloud 5? Well, at its simplest, it's really just a way of organizing your sample collection. It not only will tag all of your samples, whether you bought them from Loopmasters or whether you made them yourself or bought them somewhere else, you just import them all and it detects the key, the BPM, the style, the instruments, everything. And then let's say you're making a song and you're like, I need a guitar. So you scroll down and you get all the instruments, all the samples tagged with guitar. And then you're like, and I want it in the key of C. Boom. All the guitar riffs are in the key of C. Awesome. Or let's say you want a hip-hop beat. Well, when you open the plugin in your DAW and then have it links basically to the software, it will automatically know the tempo of your song, and so it will speed up and slow down the loop that you're browsing to match with the song, so you can actually hear it in context. Or let's say your song's in C, you've got samples in a bunch of different keys, but you want to hear what they would sound like, switch to C. Well, you can automatically make it play all of the samples in the key that you choose. So you can quickly browse and figure out like, oh, this one, no, there, instead of having to manually adjust it. So that's just for starters. That feature alone, those features alone, I think are really the reason you download LoopCloud 5. I think that period is invaluable, and that is free. It makes your library so much more accessible. You find samples you forgot about, you learn how to use samples you never knew about in all new ways, and not only that, but you also can quickly get there. So like when you're inspired, you're like, all right, I need a little something, and then you can create it so quickly and drop it in. So, like I said, download LoopCloud 5 because it is that good. But they added some new features to LoopCloud 5 which make it even more powerful, in my view. They've added a bunch, and I mean a bunch. There were a few before, but basically a bunch of automatic techniques for chopping up samples and pitching them and putting effects on them. And so what this does, and you'll see a lot of that in the demo video that comes after this, it basically allows you to remix your samples on the fly and come up with these incredibly inspirational, unique song starter ideas that you can just drop into your DAW and go with. And I think it's one of the most exciting things out there. It is really, really mind-bending the way you think you know what a sample sounds like. You think you know how to chop samples, and then you apply one of the presets, and it'll automatically just like select different parts, make them different lengths, put volume and panning and pitching and all of it, and all of a sudden you've got this really weird, unique sound. Maybe it becomes, a piano part all of a sudden starts to sound like a percussion groove, or a percussion groove could start to sound like a melody. It just really is a powerful, powerful tool for exploring. Now, the more advanced versions of LoopCloud 5 also come with some onboard effects, a filter, a reverb, maybe a delay. I'm sorry, I'm boring my cat back there. She has to, I guess. Hopefully I'm not boring you. But I don't think these effects are great. I don't think they're doing too much. And they're kind of limited in the amount of effects you have. I'd like to see a few more. I'd like to see a distortion, and maybe that's the main one I'd like to see added, really. Maybe a phaser. just because I think you could do some really interesting processing things like that. And because some of these effects are built into the presets, that's what I'm saying, I think they should be there. I don't think they're like they compare with the effects in most DAWs, so I would only use them if they were really dialing in some quick, quirky sound. And I wouldn't, I don't know that they're necessarily worth the price of admission. But another really cool feature of LoopCloud 5 is that you actually can have multiple loops playing simultaneously. So I think it's like with the free version 3 or maybe 2 or 3, and with the paid version up to 8. And this is also just an incredible song starter because you can sort of start to experiment with how things lay together, and then you can export those without having to be distracted with a more complex DAW workflow. You're sort of just grabbing samples and hearing how they all sound together, and then if they sound right, you can import them, tweak them more to your liking. And I think that is really a cool feature because you don't have to think about all the complexities of a DAW. There's a time and a place for that, but if you're trying to do like a sample-based inspiration, then I think you should just, go with these tracks until you get to where you need to go. Another really cool feature about it is that it is directly now linked with Loopmasters sample library. So even if you don't have any of the samples you need on your computer, you can instantly tap into Loopmasters' great library of sounds. And if they have what you're looking for, you can just buy it. It's really affordable. Drop it in. My view of Loopmasters' library is that they have incredibly, incredibly good sample packs, but I don't think they have a ton of variety. I think their sample packs run deep as opposed to wide. So like if you were getting like reggae dub horns, which I know is kind of specific, but I mean, their sample pack on reggae dub horns is deep. And it's like all you would need to know about reggae dub horns. But there are a lot of sounds that just aren't on there. And in comparison to Splice, I think there is a much wider variety of sounds on Splice. But in terms of quality, I think they're equal. In terms of depth, like if it's a genre that Loopmasters covers, I think you're going to find more in there, especially for genres that are maybe weren't made in the past 2 or 3 years. I think the sound on Splice is a little more current than the sound on Loopmasters. Not that Loopmasters isn't current, and not that Splice doesn't have a lot of, vintage, and by vintage I mean sounds other than, stuff that came out 2 or 3 years ago. But I think that's where their relative strengths lie. That said, you can buy samples off of Splice and drop them into LoopCloud 5, the free version, and have LoopCloud manage it. The other thing is that you might get better value if you buy the Loopmasters samples directly, like the sample packs directly, as opposed to buying them one-off through the LoopCloud. But sometimes you don't need the whole sample pack. Sometimes the better value is just to buy 1 or 2 samples that are exactly what you're looking for. There is one other shortcoming with LoopCloud 5, and that is that I have found it to be not so stable on my Mac. I'm running, I think, 10.3? Okay, I'm running, Mojave, 10.14. Numbers were close, but I haven't updated to the most recent version of Apple OS, iOS, not iOS, Mac OS, because it's not supposed to be compatible still with a lot of software, specifically music software. And I don't know if LoopCloud 5 works better in 10.15 for the Mac. I don't know if it's stabler on the PC, but on 10.14 on the Mac, I'd say it probably crashes every third time I use it. And, you just right click, exit. It's fine, but that's definitely frustrating, and I wish it was more stable. Hopefully they're going to be coming out with a patch for it soon, but for the time being, it doesn't limit my use of it. It just makes me want to get in and get out of it quickly. And also the crashes do not affect my DAW, so it's not as much of a big deal. So thank you so much for watching this review. Let me know what you think about LoopCloud 5 if you've tried it out, how you think it compares to Splice, how you think LoopCloud 5 compares to LoopCloud 4, and let me know why you haven't tried it if you haven't, or if you know of a better way of managing your samples than this. Because to me, I think this is the ultimate way, but if there's a better way, I'd be happy to know.